Energy Department has signed off on 3 wind power developments on the board of the Northern and Eastern Cape. The announcement comes as South Africans battle with stage 5 load shedding. All 3 projects are in the Newzroom municipality. It forms part of 25 wind and solar power projects worth around 50 billion rand. Once the projects have been completed, it's expected that nearly 2,600 megawatts will be added to the national grid. At the same time, the Energy Minister, Mantashe, has refuted claims that government is standing in the way of the renewable energy projects.
The state is not a competitor, it's a facilitator in any sector it is operating in. That's what I believe in. That's why with all these labels that I gave you, one of the things that I've never done is to stop growth of renewables. What I want to see happening is a situation where the debate on energy become less polarized. We debate energy, we debate principles, work together to ensure that there is security of supply, not polarized discussion between technologies.
Mantashe has also called on Eskom to take full responsibility for load shedding.
When there's load shedding, society becomes very angry. And they tell us all sorts of things. They give us all descriptions. They tell us how reckless we are. And I always clarify that there is a company called Eskom that actually manages load shedding. And my own view is that if we can improve and make Eskom operate optimally, we will not have load shedding. That's my conviction.
Experts from the Northwest University believe that nuclear energy research and development could help solve the country's crippling power cuts. We're joined by nuclear energy expert Dr. Bismark Tyobeka. Good evening to you. Thanks for your time today. Firstly, I think when we look at the integrated resource plan, it very much agrees in the fact that there is room for nuclear energy, but very limited. When you think about the possibilities then, what is the university suggesting?
Well, thank you very much, Kathy, and good evening to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. As you rightfully pointed out, the IRP 2019 makes room for nuclear, about 2,500 megawatts. And that is supposed to be done according to the IRP at a pace and scale that government can afford. Now, I believe that the nuclear has a role to play in solving the energy problems of the country. But unfortunately, nuclear is not going to be the solution in the immediate future. It is a long-term solution, but if done well, it can really take us out of the abyss in the medium to long term.
When you take a look at institutions like the Northwest University, given the very peculiar and specific offering that it has for education in the nuclear space, and you think about then what the solutions to the energy problem might be, how do you integrate the two? Because like you're saying, it's going to take a long time for some of these solutions to come on board.
Indeed, we need to, I think in my view, we need to have immediate, medium and long-term solutions. Now, at this point in time in the crisis that the country faces, it would be desirable to have more megawatts, more electrons on the grid as of yesterday. But that is not possible because it takes a long time to get the procurement process going. And of course, after procurement, we need to have the deployment of these technologies, such as the IPPs, the ones that were signed today. But signing today does not mean we're going to get electricity tomorrow. It means there will be a process of getting these solar plants deployed. And we hear between 15 to 24 months, or perhaps optimistically between 12 to 15 months. Now, if we deploy those immediate ones, in the short to medium term, and at the same time and in parallel begin to plan for long-term solutions such as the nuclear projects, then I think we will be very proactive as a country. Now, nuclear takes long. The country has always been talking about it for as far as I can remember, maybe from 2013, and it's been plagued by a lot of delays, some of which, of course, were self-inflicted by government at that time, because if you recall, this was shot down by the courts because certain things were not done, such as being transparent about the procurement process and allowing for public participation. If we tick all those boxes, I think nuclear has a very crucial role to play in the medium to long term.
If we look at where the future of energy production and energy supply is going, there is really a great deal of emphasis on clean energy alternatives. And in as far as the mix of energy that you're talking about, South Africa finds itself at a crossroads, at least that's what it seems like, in this moment, to really make decisions about whether and the extent to which we are going to embrace the path of alternative renewable energy. What do you think we need to be bearing in mind as we have these conversations and these decisions are made?
2 or 3 things, Kathy. The first thing is that we need to take into consideration our current socio-economic situation. And at the same time, whilst we think about that, we also have to think about our growth aspirations. Juxtapose those two with our commitments in the COP26 agreements. Now, if you look at that, it means there is a need for us to embark on a gradual process of transition from our coal-based generation, which is almost 80%, to transition to cleaner technologies. Now, nuclear is part of that. We've heard just recently the European Commission, the European Union has declared that, in fact, nuclear can be financed as clean energy. Now, if we adopt the same posture, we then phase in more renewables, more nuclear, but also embark and invest more on clean coal technologies, the carbon capture and sequestration technologies, so that we do not veer away from our mainstay, which is coal. Because indeed, if we did that, we are going to impoverish many, many communities.
So basically you're saying that this a part of the fight and the contest that is taking place about what to do with coal now should be carefully thought about, and that it's not wise for South Africa to completely do away with coal, especially as an overnight decision.
Definitely. We need the just transition for the sake of our economic growth, for the sake of our socio-economic conditions. We need a just transition from coal. Of course, we have committed to having our emissions by 2030 and going to net zero carbon by 2050. Those are very, very ambitious targets, and it remains to be seen if we could reach them. We've heard, of course, of the 130-something billion that we have received from developed countries to assist us with this transition. But it really remains to be seen if this can be achieved within the time frames. Otherwise, as I say and I repeat, if we were to make such hasty decisions overnight, we are definitely going to impoverish the already impoverished masses of our countries that live in coal towns, such as in the Mpumalanga province.
One of the biggest hindrances to part of the plans that the country was exploring when it comes to procuring nuclear energy was, yes, there was, of course, the political scandal associated with it, but the big issue really also centered around whether or not it was something that we could afford. It's clear that this is an undertaking that even government itself would not be able to do on its own. So how do we manage that, the financing of any potential future nuclear projects?
Yes, Kathy, we must depart from the point that nuclear indeed is very expensive as far as capital expenditure is concerned. Now, given our current situation, economic situation, we cannot afford nuclear alone. At some point, the Minister of Energy once said that we are not tied to the idea of going it alone as government, because obviously we cannot afford it. But we need to explore a number of financing options, including allowing for the private sector to participate in the project. So I think with that in mind, and of course being transparent, going on an open bid to ensure that we have enough competition, we're transparent, and we comply with the procurement prescribed by the Constitution. I think we should be able to attract the private sector into investing on some of these nuclear programs.
Dr. Bismark Tyobeka, who is a nuclear energy expert, let me thank you for your time tonight on News at Prime.